Talk podcast, and I'm so excited to go with another episode, guys. Another episode, and I'm bringing you guys two of my friends here, leaders here at SYED as well. We have my boy Brian. Brian, say what's up to the people, man.
What's up, Brian?
No. All right, great. All right, Richard, say what's up to the people. My friend Richard here.
What up, y'all?
Man, I'm so excited to share with you guys, open up with you guys, get SY to get to know you a little bit better and your story, which I think everybody has a unique story. I don't know if you guys have ever sat down with somebody and kind of just asked them like, hey, what have you gone through? And you just hear some crazy stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Today we want to focus on, and today's topic for the day that we want to definitely touch on is going to be the process, and it's going to be basically talking about the process that leads you to your calling or to what God has called you to do. Right, and I think it's so important that we touch on that today, and because everybody's going through a process, good or bad. You know, as long as you're saying to yourself, man, I want to go somewhere, there's going to be a process. There's going to be a destination, and I feel so privileged and honored to be able to share for anybody that's watching us. You might not even be going to our church. Hey, this is for you as well. And the process for the progress, or the process for the blessing, or however you want to put it, I think that everybody has a story to tell, and I'm excited to share that story today. Yeah. So, Brian, talk to me, man. I want to kick it off talking about, first of all, what age did you get saved? What age did you say, man, I need Jesus? Talk to me.
Oh, man. Okay, so it's a simple question with a lot of answers.
Yeah.
But in essence, I guess I started going to church my freshman year. And I was about like 14.
School?
Yeah.
Or middle school?
No, high school.
High school, okay.
Around like 14 years old. I was introduced to youth group.
Okay.
And from there on out, 3 months later, that's when I went to my Exodus.
Nice.
So it was sort of like very fast, but it was needed for my life.
Okay.
So within 3 months, I went to my Exodus. I guess like 9 months later, I was a leader, something like that, right?
Dope.
So ever since then, I've just been very heavily involved, not even with church, but with a relationship with God. I think that's the biggest part, because you could be in church your whole life.
Of course.
That don't mean you got a relationship,
of course,
know?
Yeah.
So like for that whole time from high school to now, like it's just growing in that faith. So in essence, like I just started from that, and yeah, like it's just been a journey since then.
Nice. And the reason why I wanted to touch on that, and at what age? Talk to me at what age?
14.
14, okay. So 14 years old, me, myself, 16. Because I really want to touch on the purpose of the process and how important it is. Because, I mean, again, young age, 14, 16. Richard, talk to me, man. What age did you get saved? Talk to me a little about your story, how you said, you know what, Jesus, I need you in my life.
Well, I was born to Christian parents.
Okay.
So, like, they were in church, like, technically, like you'd say, leaders in Puerto Rico. So I was born in a Christian church, Christian home. But like when I basically made the decision myself to be like, okay, because you can grow up in church and it's like, okay, you're there.
Yeah.
But
automatically, it's like automatically
okay,
saved.
Automatic,
I go to church,
awesome.
yeah,
You're,
of course.
You're a Christian.
Yeah.
But it's like when you make the conscious decision to be like, okay, let me accept Jesus into my heart. Maybe it was like 10, something like that. Something like that. I remember it was, I don't know, it was like a Sunday, and I had been like hearing the altar call like a bunch of times, and it's like, you want to, but you don't want to. It's like, what do I do? But then I think at 10 years old, I was like, you know what, let me make the decision. And then I made that step, yeah.
And that's interesting, because I want to start off with just that, with where it starts, where it roots from, right? Because there might be some people that are listening to us today or watching us right now and saying, you know, I haven't even given my life to Jesus yet, or I did give my life to Jesus at a young age, and what does that mean? Like being saved, what does that mean? And I think it's so important that we never lose focus that no matter what, being saved or not being saved, you're gonna go through life, and life will be life. Like when I say that, I'm like, problems are going to come, you get me? But the greatest thing about being saved and basically living life and knowing that there's a God is that you're able to know that you have somebody that's steering the ship. You get me? Yeah. That's the biggest thing to me, that I'm just like, man, no matter what situation I'm going through, as long as I'm just being flowed, or the Holy Spirit is flowing in me, I know that it's gonna be okay. Yeah. And again, this might be for somebody that's listening that might say to themselves, well, I don't really know much about Jesus. I'm just listening to this podcast, and it's just like, what are you guys talking about? What is saved? Well, I've only heard that in memory cards. Like, I don't really know what saved is, type of thing. But it's something that I think needs to be mentioned in the beginning, because it all starts from that decision. It all starts from saying, you know what, Father, I want to go ahead or you know what, God, I want to go ahead and give my life to you. And the reason why I want to mention that is because I want to talk a little bit about your life, and I want to talk about how that has impacted your life to this day. Brian, I talk to me a little about your life and what you're into. Talk about more about your career, because I feel like that decision has altered everything. As soon as you start to say, hey, I want to be obedient to God, it's like your whole life is taking this course, because now you're saying to yourself, I don't want to do what I want to do. I want to do what God wants me to do. So talk to me, Brian.
So actually piggybacking on what you said before, it's kind of like we have a testimony that we all were saved when we were young. So someone that's probably watching this, that's older, 25, our age right now, 30 or whatever it is. I was like, I can't relate because I haven't been saved yet.
True.
So like one thing is, I don't think there's a wrong way to go to Jesus. There could be a long way. So when I emphasize by that, I mean is like a GPS doesn't tell you you're going the wrong way. It tells you, you passed your exit. This is the next route you have to
rerouting.
Go to. It reroutes you. So this is the same way like how Jesus works. Like maybe you could have gotten saved at one point. But he's still working with you. Saying the GPS works with you. You don't have to work for the GPS. So in essence, that's how our life is. Like whatever type of route we have, each one of us has different testimony. But our calling is very similar when it comes down to, Jesus is always working us. We just have to pay attention to the GPS,
True.
So even the best GPS, you still have to look at the road, So like God and Jesus is the GPS. But in our daily lifestyles, we still have to look at the road. We still have to, in essence, look at who's crossing the street. That's on our own our own path, So with our lifestyle, like a lot of people are saying, like it's hard to be a Christian. Yes and no, like it's a daily routine. It's a habit, So growing with that habit since I was 14 years old, like I grew up basically in high school, not doing anything that anyone else is doing. Me and my brother were known as the Christian guys. Should we invite them to the party? We don't know, because I don't think they'll turn up. Whatever, like it was always like that. But then it was kind of like a yin and yang type of experience, because we're always, I wouldn't say that we're popular, but we were very, known, and in essence, like people want to be around us, and we want to be around them. So like it was always that aspect. And growing up in like, obviously in high school, that's when you learn a lot. That's when you get introduced to sex, you get introduced to drugs, you get introduced to everything, right? So
even before that,
for sure, like
in middle school,
in
middle school, like I'm sorry, but for those that think that middle school is the innocent times too,
no way,
yes,
no way at all. But luckily, like I wasn't in the middle school phase, because luckily I got saved before anything happened. But in essence, like realistically, like high school is like where people really experiment.
True.
So growing up to that, like I sort of noticed like what I like, and I loved shoes. My shoes were my introduction of what I want to do with my life. Right. So me and Kevin were known as the sneakerheads.
For those that don't know who Kevin is,
it's my brother,
and he is your
twin brother.
Yes. For those that don't know, yes. I'm trying to set you up. Okay, so your twin brother. All right. So you got saved at a young age. Twin brother, passionate sneakers. Where are you now? Talk to me. Where are you now? Fast forward.
So fast forwarding, I actually, I guess I'm a fashion designer. It's kind of weird because that's so cliche. But yeah, in essence, like I have my own brand I'm working on right now. Started off like styling artists and stuff like that, and from there on out, like I got introduced to like might as well go full throttle. See what I could do with my own things.
Of course.
So that's how I started my brand. I have always wanted to be an actor. And my epitome in life was going to Atlanta for a month.
Okay.
I had full faith that something will happen because I have an agency over there. And they said just be available.
Okay.
Right. Throughout that whole month, didn't know what to do. Every single day I woke up, I was like, okay, what now? Like look at websites, but I could have just done that in Florida. So like it was really a eye opener of like, you know, like, is this the path for me? And throughout that whole path, like, that whole month I was introduced, or I was known more for my fashion instead of my acting.
It's crazy how life works, that you want to go ahead and do something, and then
It
somehow,
rolls you
some
back in.
way,
Yeah, it rolls you back.
you know?
For sure.
But that's awesome. So you're involved into fashion. You're a fashion designer. Talk to me about your line. What's the name of your line?
So my line is Altamar,
Okay.
which is my last name. I think it's important to use my last name because last names have a huge impact on our culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, back in the days, your last name described of where you lived. So it was Jesus of Nazareth, you know. So or, you know, if you live by the coast, you would be La Costa or Costa, you know, whatever it is. Your last name dictated where you're from. And so my last name means Altamar, which is high sea or high ocean, you know. So my ancestors used to live close to this ocean. So it was more or less like, okay, like, how can I introduce my heritage into my brand? So I used my last name. But in essence, my brand is a streetwear brand, mid-tier, not high fashion, but a mid-tier level. And I sort of like where the pinpoint is right now.
Dope. So Richard, talk to me, Richard. I wanna. We heard Brian's story. I wanna hear a little bit more about you as well. Talk to me about where you are in life and the decision you made. You said, okay, at 10 years old, that's amazing. Like at 10 years old, I had no idea who Jesus was at all. I didn't even know about a church. I didn't know nothing about that. Talk to me about where you are today, and talk to me a little bit about what led you to the day, because I know, for those that know, Brian didn't mention it. I hadn't asked him yet, but even Brian, you know, his girlfriend he found his girlfriend from church. It's crazy. And I know that you're married as well, and your wife came from here as well,
Exactly.
which again, it doesn't go always as planned.
Yeah.
It doesn't always go as planned, like I'm going to marry somebody from the church. No, it doesn't always work like that. But talk to me about where you are today and kind of being saved, where it has led you to.
Well, if we go from, let's say, being saved, I been at this church specifically, say how it is for,
Okay.
since 1998. I don't know. You do the math, right?
98, okay.
So since a little kid, growing up in this entire ministry, like just growing up literally in this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with being saved and just growing up, and what's the next step? All right, let's be a leader. You know, that's what's responsible. Like that's what you're called to do. All right, let's do it. So then going from that and being a young leader, right, in school, not knowing, like, I don't know how to be a leader. Like, you just do it.
Yeah.
And trying to lead other people your age, but you're like I guess, like, what makes my life
true.
different from yours?
Yeah.
Like, how do I lead you? How do I guide you? I don't know. It's just it I don't know, trial and error.
Yeah.
A lot of trial and error, and definitely finding people with experience, like an older leader. My dad, I confide in a lot because he's been, I don't know, a Christian for, you know, since before I was born, you know. So finding somebody with wisdom, finding somebody who has done it, even if it's just a little bit longer than you know, that has been my guide. Obviously, listening to reading the Bible and listening to my pastor and listening to my leaders, but that's pretty much my kind of like my, you know, my GPS. Like, all right, what do I go? What's the next step? I don't know. I ask God, but like when you need an answer, it's like, all right, what do I do? Let me ask somebody. That's kind of been my guide, my help through leadership, I guess you could say. But how that's brought me, you know, full circle to today, right now. Like you mentioned, I met my wife at church, and also, like you mentioned, it wasn't planned.
Yeah.
Like, been in church my whole life, right? So you kind of know everybody who's here.
Yeah.
Basically.
It's like a big family.
Yeah.
It's like a big family.
You know everybody who's here. All right. She's taken. She's not. I don't like her. She's not funny. Like, you just know what's going down.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right. So I never really planned. I didn't know really who she was, Isabel, my wife. I don't know. It just didn't happen. Like, I don't know how I got to this place, but with faith and trusting, that's how I got here. Currently, my position, my job, I work at the church. I work in the ministry.
Which is a huge responsibility,
which
by
is
the way.
A pretty big responsibility.
I tell my hat to people that work in ministry as well, because if I do ministry as a volunteer, because, you know, when we do a leadership and wherever we do that, that's kind of like, it's already like, man, like, you work. Leadership is work. And on top of that, you work.
Man, I work.
It's like, man, like, there has to be a special place in heaven for people like you guys, because
I hope.
man, working in ministry, man, working in ministry, honestly, is a tough, but it's something that, you know, builds character.
Yeah.
Because again, you know, now because of your leadership role and you leading others, shapes you or molds you to be a father or a better father in the future. You get me? Shout out to Isabel. She's also in the SY the Talk podcast, which we are on right now. I don't know why I said the whole introduction like that. Amari's gonna kill me. But anyways, the reason why I bring that up, and now that we're trying to get to know each other, now that we know a little bit about our story, guys, I want to talk about the process, right? And the process to progress, or the process that we all go through, or the fire. I was telling you guys off camera that a lot of times people forget that if it wasn't for Judas, there wouldn't be there wouldn't be this crucifixion of Jesus. Like everything that has happened in our lives till this day is something that if you align with God and if you're in God's purpose, there's going to be some things that are going to be they're going to be hard that you're going to face. But as long as you have God and as long as you are doing what God has called you to do, you're able to withstand that storm. Now, if you go out of God's will and you just start to be un viejo loco, like they say in Spanish, or like you try to act wild, then you might face some things that maybe you're not ready for. I mean, and they're going to come with their consequences. But talk to me a little bit. I'm going to start with you, Rich. Talk to me a little bit about the process that we go as, not only as normal human beings, as men, because this is a all men podcast for the day. Shout out to all my guys. But as men, the process that you go through, Rich, being saved and trying to get somewhere, because it's also very frustrating, other than the process, to know where you're going, the purpose, right? If you know me, you know that my whole thing and why I gave my life to Jesus is because I found my purpose in Jesus. I wake up every morning knowing that I'm making a difference in this world. I'm not just another number in the population. So I think the reason why I break down this question and it's so long is because first and foremost, it's frustrating as a Christian or as a person, period, to find out what your purpose is. Because like you said earlier, and like even Brian was saying, it's trial and error sometimes. Sometimes it's just like, man, I want to have it figured out. Like, I want to know, especially as a man, you better have your stuff together, especially if you're with a Hispanic woman, because she will put you on the spot. She'll be like, what you want to do, right? And the reason why I bring that up is because, talk to me about that. How did God work? How did God work in your life? How did you figure out what you wanted to be? Have you even found out what you wanted to be yet? And how has the process been? Share a little bit about that.
I mean, process is process. I think one thing that's key to life, key to Christianity, key to anything in life, honestly, it's like you have to like have a cool, calm, a collected head, be humble, be chill about everything. That's one thing that I think I'm known for. Like, if everybody knows me, Rich, he's chill. Yeah. It's because, like, I don't know, it's just a trait that I'm gifted with. Like, that's from God, honestly. But like, if you can just be cool in the moment, you can be calm in the moment, even though you don't have the answer. Yeah. I don't have the answer for everything right now. But if we trust in God, right, and then the process, I look back and say, oh, okay, 5 years later, I wasn't here, but I'm here. Okay, there was a process that led me here. It wasn't me. Because if you're boastful and you're like, yo, I did everything, you did it, But when I can say, yo, Lex, 5 years ago, I wasn't here, but I am here now. All right, there's only the one answer is God. God brought me here, in my faith and my trust and everything that I've had in him. He's the one that brought me here. He's the one that's led me on this path, So, I don't know. Life is difficult. Life is hard. It is full of trials. It's full of errors. It's full of hardship. It's full of questions and not knowing.
Of course.
But it's in that trust where, I don't know, that's what makes the unknown possible. That's what makes it bearable. That's what makes the struggle, the storm, the whatever you want to call it, that's what makes it bearable. Not knowing what's coming next, not knowing what's literally in front of me. Okay, I don't know it, but God does. I don't want to sound super religious, but that's the one thing that I think can tie anybody who has any sort of faith in God. It's, I have that faith. And it's said all the time, faith is something you don't see. So it's like, I have that faith that even though I don't know what to do, even though I might have questions, even though my wife has questions and I can't give her the answer right now.
No, of course.
I can't give her the answer, but I'm like, all right, baby, let's pray on it. Let's chill about it. Let's whatever. I don't have the answers, but I know something will come, and it's because of God.
And it's simple to say, yes. Okay, so what is your calling? Hey, you know what? All I know is that I have faith in Jesus. It's simple to say, simple. But it's so hard to ridiculously live. Hard. Yeah. It is so hard because again, it's not that it's impossible, but it's something so difficult to be able to be faced with life itself, right? and not know what's next. Like, I want to encourage people that are watching us today that, it's going to be okay, because obviously we have two great, amazing testimonies here on this couch. But the key, like you said, the key element here is trusting in God.
Yep.
Because the thing is, if we start to trust in ourselves, that's when we start to be depressed, because we let ourselves down. You get me? And I think something so amazing about God is that when God moves, it's him, because there was no way, like you said, there was no way it could have been me.
Yeah.
Because I know that I've had conversations with people, and obviously we're all in leadership, and we're all leaders, obviously. Title or no title, or church or no church, if you're saved and you're a Christian, you have a responsibility to preach the gospel. So you're leading by an example in your life. But why I'm saying that is because a lot of times we get frustrated in the church, and I say the church, not our church only, but the church period, that we find ourselves saying, God, but I want to serve you, God, but I want to do these things, but I don't know who I'm going to be. And I'm frustrated because I've tried a million things and I still don't know. And it's like what you were saying, is to trust God in the unknown.
Yeah, I think it's super, like, in the time that we're in right now, like the day and age, 2019, super technology, right? We have answers literally in 2 seconds. Google, what is this? Google, what is that? Let me ask a friend, or let me ask this person.
Yeah.
At phone call, you can call somebody in China right now. Hey, what's the code to my computer that you guys made over there? I'm in the United States. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Or here it is, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I called Apple before, and it's like somewhere else.
By the way, I've never saw it like that, which is amazing. Continue,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm pretty sure I've talked to somebody overseas one time, literally calling my phone. But you have the answers. Everybody has the answers right here. That's the day, that's the age, that's the place that we're in right now in time. We're in the future, literally.
Yeah.
But life with faith is not Google. Like, God isn't Google. Prayer isn't Google.
True.
And it's like, we're different, right? We're not of this world. We're trying to live our lives differently. We're trying to live our lives with faith, not on sight.
Yeah.
Right? And when you can get the answer on Google to literally anything else except for that thing that you need, it's like,
I don't have control.
Exactly. You don't have control.
Yes.
And I think that's an important thing for a lot of young people, to relinquish the control. It's like, just let go and let God, because if I can't find the answer on Google, what I'm going to do? And in that's that faith step right there, literally.
Yeah, because so many people lose their faith, and a lot of people have faced so much stress and anxiety because, but God, how am I gonna pay my rent this month? But God, how am I gonna match up these bills?
Yeah.
But God, but you've called me to move in faith, but the money's not adding up with the faith that I have. What's going on, Father? And a lot of times we get discouraged as Christians because, let's be honest, when we're put in situations of pressure and we don't know the answer, part of us comes out saying, oh no, but what if you fail? And you get me? And I believe that if we don't relinquish, like you said, let go and let God, then we're going to always live our lives in fear. Fear of the process. There's times that God has put something in my life, or there has been times that God has put somebody watching right now to start a business or to do something, and out of fear they don't do it. Oh no, but what if I fail? Oh, but what if I don't have money to invest? Oh, and I've realized in my walk with God that the only time that God truly is manifested is when I just take the leap of faith, when I just risk it. Oh, okay, so how much do you need to do this? Okay, here. I don't know how I'm going to make up the numbers to add up, but let's do it. And then somehow something happens. Obviously, we know God is working, and it happens. And it's like, I lived my whole life in fear of not diving in the pool, when as soon as I would have dived in the pool, God would have been my safety, my safety net. You get me? And I think that's so important what you're saying. And I'm so passionate about this topic because so many times in faith we're affected because the process in our circumstance, we start to believe that our circumstance defines our God, and it's not like that. We start to think that our circumstance defines our relationship with God. Oh, if I'm going through problems right now, that means that God is mad at me. That's not true. No. That's not true. In the Bible, it clearly says, like, God's going to give us a yoke that's light enough for us to carry. Like, there's going to be some times that we're going to have some things in our life that are going to be small burdens, but only to define us. Like I said, anything that you hear, like anything that you see in the Bible that is somebody being promoted, there's always something that's being tested, or there's always something that's being put at stake for you to be able to grow. So Brian, talk to me, man. just like to piggyback with what Richard
Yeah.
was saying, in your life, share with me a little bit about, because again, you have a huge calling, a calling that most people might say, yeah, I want to do this, but I fear doing this
Sure.
because of failure. And again, I'm sure that in your walk and to this day, there's been times that you've realized that, oh my God, I'm getting this type of attention, or I'm doing this. Like this is no way that it was me. No matter how much fashion I know, or no matter how much fashion you know, is going to take some type of risk. Like you said, going to Atlanta for who knows how long you went to Atlanta for. Being able to be there and trusting in God, because I know that there was times that you must have said to yourself, okay, now what?
Yeah.
And
So-
we're always put in that crossroads. So talk to me about that.
Okay, so man, actually, when I was on my phone, I anyone that knows me, I love to write stuff down. So I had a couple of points, but before I get into that, I guess one thing I wanted to talk about was the faith that we have, or like just the in spirit. Like how do you get inspired by things? You know, like everything that we do is either like motivated in some type of way, right?
Of course.
And one thing that I've learned is like the word inspiration comes from, like I wrote it down. It's the word inspire comes from the origin in spirit, and from the old French inspiration, which means breathing in. Etymology dictionary says it's the immediate influence of God.
Wow.
So to be completely inspired is being completely in spirit with God.
Ooh, you dropping gems right
So-
now.
So dropping into that same concept was more or less like our process is our progress.
Yeah.
So one thing that Sophia, my girlfriend's little brother, he's starting to love to play basketball, right? When you're starting to do something, it's super fun. It doesn't matter what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So like he's starting to get to know, like, like the fundamental workouts aren't that much fun, like doing like the little leg works and stuff like that. He just wants to play basketball.
Conditioning sucks, man.
Yeah, the conditioning sucks.
I hate it.
So like he just wants to play basketball. Like every time when he's in practice, he's like looking at everyone else playing while he's doing a drill, saying like, I just want to play, right?
Yeah.
So going through that thing, like, is just like you have to go through the process to see your progress. You know,
Wow.
like every single one of those older adults have done some type of way to become better, right? So it's through that process of like learning different things. And whenever he's trying to do a layup or something that he's not really familiar with, he gets frustrated. And I tell him, like, no, that's good. Don't be frustrated, because you're showing your weakness.
Yeah.
Your weakness is your greatness. Because once you start realizing what your weakness is, you can start working on it.
Of course.
So like once you start working on your left layup or whatever it is, you
Left hand layups are annoying.
left hand layups for like right-handers are super difficult,
Yep.
right? So if once you start working on the things that you're weak with, you start becoming a better person. Life isn't perfection. Life is a progression, right? So
That's a bar. I'm outie. That's a bar right there. All right.
yeah.
Oh,
so
what
like,
was it again? Inspire. Inspire means in spirit. I'm
Yeah.
outie. Make sure. I'm gonna just keep on shouting. I'm a boy. I'm outie here. Yo.
So
right there.
so yeah, another thing I wanted to talk about was nothing is coincidence.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking about that is like whenever we look at like the big timers, Bill Gates or whatever it is, we think about like, oh, if this didn't happen in their life, they wouldn't be where they're at. Like if they didn't come from a wealthy family, or if Bill Gates didn't go to the school that provided like computer technology, he wouldn't be the Bill Gates of this day. That stuff is irrelevant, because you're just assuming it's a coincidence.
Yeah.
There's other people in that same classroom just like Bill Gates. But is it coincidence that we only know Bill Gates? No, because he put the hard work for it. And so one thing I've learned is, yes, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to come your way that going to look like coincidence, because in essence, you worked for that position. That coincidence would just be another thing in just another day. But since you took action to what you've done, it looks like it's a great thing. The whole Rolling Loud thing, I have a collab with Rolling Loud.
For those that don't know what Rolling Loud is, I'm sorry. There's
So-
gonna be some people that don't know what is Rolling Loud.
Rolling Loud is the biggest hip hop festival, I'm assuming in the world, but I will say safely in the U.S.
In the U.S. Okay.
So they're the biggest hip hop festival. They are, the Coachella of hip hop, the Woodstock of hip hop in a sense, right? So how that happened was I had a T-shirt for sale on eBay. And so I had it's a vintage T-shirt. I think I posted it up for like $400 or something like that. And so some guy hits me up on eBay saying, "Yo, I'm local. Can you do for like 250?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Nah, but like that's kind of too low." Whatever. So he messages me back saying, "Yo, can you DM me on Instagram?" Then I find out it's Matt Zingler.
Okay.
So
and for those that don't know who
Matt Zingler is the owner of Rolling Loud.
Okay.
So then I found out there's Matt Zingler, and from there on out, like we started negotiating pricing, and I just asked him, "Yo, I'll do a lower price if you can model my stuff."
Yeah.
Long story short, he said he doesn't really model because he charges a really big upfront fee.
Yeah.
And he was like, "You know what? Let me just see your work."
Mm-hmm.
So he loved my work. He said, "You know what? I'll do it for you. I'll still buy the shirt and I'll model for you." Right. So we went to do the photo shoot. Everything was fine. I left. He calls me back saying, "Yeah, let's do something. Let's have a collab." And so it's not a coincidence. If the reason why I even got that T-shirt is because I went to a flea market event, and if I would have passed that vendor, you know, I wouldn't have gotten that thing. If I didn't post it up on eBay at the same time, if I sold it to someone else, if I didn't ask, it wouldn't happen. There's a lot of coincidences, quote unquote, that could have prevented this, you know. But just ask, just in case.
Yeah.
You know, so like whatever you do in life, you know, take action into it, because something can happen in your life that will legit change your whole lifestyle. It's because you're ready for progress. Your process is your progress.
Dope. I love that, man. And guys, just for the people that are going through the same situation as you, Brian, or people that are going through the same situation as you, Rich, I want to kind of share a little bit as well. Just like you were saying, your process is the progress. That's how you're going to find out exactly, you know, what you're bettering at. The weakness, you know, is what you need to better at. But I also want to zoom in a little bit about, guys, what it means to fail. You get me? Now, again, the reason why I say that is because I don't want to paint a pretty picture, right, Rich? I don't want to paint a pretty picture and say, hey, you know, as long as you have God, you will never fail. No,
Life ain't always pretty.
Yeah, exactly. So talk to me if you have. If you haven't, I mean, hey, you're blessed. It's completely fine. I'm not saying everybody's going to fail. But, Rich, I want to talk to you a little bit about failure. Have you ever faced failure in your walk with God and in your life, period?
I have, I guess, a good story. So I was talking to a girl, right? Not my wife.
Okay.
Right. Knew her, met her through, what is it called? Acquaintances. I was gonna say coincidence. I'm like, no. Coincidence.
Yeah, conference.
No, acquaintances, right?
Okay.
Met this person, whatever. Met this girl. And I didn't take the final step. Oh, that's my girlfriend. Let's make this thing happen. But I was very like, all right, you know, she wasn't raised in church. She didn't have Christian parents, and I was like, whatever, that's cool. Like, I'm not a saint, you know. Yeah. I live in South Florida. Like, I get it. I know.
That's very important for people to realize.
Yeah,
there's some people that are saved that are saying, if you ain't saved, we ain't even talking. Don't even conversate. Hey.
I don't go there.
Sometimes we gotta realize, hey, we were there too.
Yeah, I only go out to restaurants and church. No, that's not me. No, but yeah, so like whatever. Cool. Let's work on it, right? Yeah. Let's see what's going on. Whatever. Fast forward, it doesn't work out, right? I don't know specifics, but it doesn't work out. Cool, awesome. But whatever. You work on something, and you think it's going to pan out, and it didn't. I was like, all right, whatever, cool. If it wasn't from God, if it wasn't going to happen, it wasn't going to happen. Cool. Sure. I'm mature enough to say, cool, awesome. But then, you know, fast forward, like, literally, like 2 months, right? And then I start, you know, having conversations with my now wife, you know, which was super quick, honestly.
Yeah.
Super quick, 2 months. People are like, oh, they have to go through like a 6 month sabbatical or something, whatever. 2 months.
to get to know the girl.
Yeah, get to know the girl. But like 2 months later, literally, we were talking like as in like, oh, what's up? How you doing? Whatever. We can hang out. Whatever. You know, just basic stuff. Nothing too crazy. She wasn't my girlfriend in 2 months, but we start talking. You know, so I learned from this failure. I literally learned what I did and did not want, you know, in a relationship. And I remember I don't know how many months after we started talking, me and Isabel, but we went on our official first date. I remember it was after like a Friday night youth service. Went to Dave and Buster's, and then afterwards, I was like, "Hey, these are like my non-negotiables, you know?
Oh, okay.
And then,
hey, I have my non-negotiables too.
so
I
it's
On
like-
the first date.
after the first day. All right, so
Okay.
whatever. We get our prizes, you know, we get a little teddy bear. We're in the car, and it's like, these are my non-negotiables. Because I learned, I know what I don't want.
yeah.
I learned from my mistakes.
Guys, that's so important. Sorry, I have to pause you
No,
right there.
it's-
That's so important for the people that are listening. Hey, like, if you've gone through a past relationship, learn from it, man.
You gotta learn.
Hey, learn from your failure. That's what Rich
Yeah.
is trying to tell you guys. Learn from your failure, okay? But go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
Basically,
Rich.
so that basically first day we've been talking or whatever, we had gone out, but this is our first day, and I was like, hey, if we're gonna take the next step, which is the official step, where
Yeah.
we're not little kids, if we're gonna go out, we're gonna be in a relationship, it's to further and down the road get married.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, these are my non-negotiables, A, B, and C. Cool, awesome. So then we go down that path, and fast forward, I don't know, 3 years later, 4 years later, I'm not too sure, but we're married, we're happy. I'm not having to deal with the same stuff that I was dealing
Wow.
with. Learn from your mistakes, learn from what you're doing. So that's that was a failure in the moment, but
Yeah.
now looking back, I can use it as a testimony. I can help other younger people.
Come
I can
Yes.
I can use that. Which segues to another thing. Get advice from older people that have been through stuff.
Yeah.
Don't ask your younger cousin like,
Don't
hey,
be
what
too
do,
prideful.
what do I do? No.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need that true advice. You need advice from somebody who's wise, who's older, who's been through a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
to then be like, all right, cool. And then, like I mentioned before, one of my people that I confide in a lot for advice is my dad. He's been married, I don't know, 35 years, I think, at this
Mhm.
moment. No, that's probably not true. I don't know. 30 years, I think.
30
I don't know.
years. But it
30
feels like
years?
35.
No, yeah.
plus,
I
right?
think, let's say they've been married 30 years.
Uh-huh.
Christian, been through it. He wasn't born Christian. And then I asked him in that time of like, in between of like, hey, right before I'm just going to stop talking to this other girl, I was like, hey, this, that, and the other, like, what do I do? And he's like, hey, look, if it's not there, it's not there. If it'll come back in the future, whatever happens, cool. But if it's not there right now, let it go and see what happens. I let it go, and then I step into pretty much my biggest blessing, my wife, and,
Wow.
and now I have a family, and now I'm known as like, okay, you're young. All the time, Alex. All the time, Brian. You're married? Bro, you look
I hear
20.
that all the time.
You
I
look
hear that all the
20,
time.
bro. You're married? Yeah, I'm married. Oh, wow. So that's something I'm boastful. I'm proud.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm young. I'm married. I'm doing it. Is it perfect? Is it easy? Of course not. But am I doing it with the grace, with the blessing of God? Of course. That's so you gotta you sometimes have to fail. Now you will. You're maybe gonna fail. You are going to
Yeah.
fail. It's a guarantee. You're gonna fail,
Yeah.
and it's on you to learn from it.
Yo, I'm not gonna lie, Rich. I did not think you were gonna give that example, man. You always surprise me, bro. Talking to Richard is like you would never expect. You'll be like, you think you would know, like close to what he's gonna say. I did not expect
Roll the
that. but
dice.
that
See what I come out with.
That exactly that. But that's. So, I mean, I think that's why we're such great friends, because I could come to you for anything, bro, and it's just like, I don't know what's gonna come out, but it's gonna be something that's from God, because I know that God uses you. I mean, that's great, man. And if anybody is listening and is going through or has went through a breakup or has gone through a past relationship, doesn't specifically mean only a boyfriend or girlfriend or even a friendship. Friendships are hard, man. Even there's gonna be friendships that you might not be friends with the person anymore, but you can learn from that. You get me? So, Brian, I also want to hear a little bit about have you ever failed? How have you faced failure? Because failure is not it's not a easy cookie to digest.
Yeah.
Right? Talk to me a little bit about that, bro.
Okay, so obviously I failed.
Yeah.
And I think people that say they haven't failed are prideful. You have to learn from your mistakes. The biggest thing from failing is you start learning. So talking a little bit about that is when you're working out, they say what? Get to failure. They don't say until rep to what rep, whatever it is. If you really want to take bodybuilding or work out serious, they say go to failure, right? And so that we could sort of translate that to our lifestyle. Sometimes you do have to fail to learn. When the next day when you're starting to work out, you're gonna feel sore. You've hit your weak point. But after after that soreness goes away, you become stronger. So like we could translate to how our failures are. Like people feel that failures are a disgrace, a weakness, and like when they fail, it's the end of all. you know. And this is where a lot of people stopped working out, because they think that one failure describes who they are. That's not true. Because every single failure that you've done, you learn something. You know, like when you're in the waiting room is your learning room. So what I'm saying by that is, imagine physically you're going to the doctors or something like that has a waiting room. You know, when you're in the waiting room, when you're waiting a while, you start looking around. You start looking like, oh, that fish tank is pretty cool. If you weren't in that waiting room for that long, you wouldn't have noticed what's around you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to wait to learn.
Yeah.
And so with our lifestyle, sometimes it takes a lot longer to get to the process because you're still learning from that. Maybe there's still something that you have to learn from it. So I guess like with failures in general, it's not really a failure. It's, you know, it's sometimes it takes 2 L's to make a W, you know. Yeah. So like for sure, like
I'm outie. That's I'm outie. Come on, man. That's another bar.
So yes, just in general, you know, like never stop on a failure, because like if Michael Jordan would have stopped when he got kicked out from his high school basketball team, would have never known who Michael Jordan was.
Yeah.
You know, so just know that your failure is a way to progress from where you're at.
Yeah. I like that, because I always say that a failure is just a lesson, how to not do it. I always say that to people. I'm like, look, man, I didn't fail. I just learned another way how not to do it. And I think it's so important for people to listen in general, not only people of faith, if you haven't gotten to that step in your life yet. But it's important to understand that, hey, failure is going to come, but failure is not the end, right? So now that we touched that topic, I'm glad that we were able to talk today, man, about everything that I wanted to talk about. Yeah. But now I've been asking all of my guests this question, and this question is kind of deep. Rich, I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here, but I've been asking all of my guests the same question, right? And the question is, when it's all said and done, right? Obviously, we live this life, or we have this life that God has given us. We don't know when it's going to be our last day. But I think one thing that drives a leader or drives a person in faith is knowing that there is a finish line, right? Like, what's the point of running a race if there's no finish line? You're just running in circles. Knowing that at the end of the day, there is a finish line and that there's something to be achieved makes the race worth it, right? So when it's all said and done, you could be 99, 100, or you could already gone past with the Lord. What do you want to be known as? What do you want your legacy to be? That the day that it's all said and done and they think of Richard, what do you want people to get from that? And the reason why I say that is because I put that in perspective every episode, and I make sure that every guest tells me that, because it's so important to understand that, hey, I'm enduring all of this to one day leave a legacy. You get me? I think the greatest out of all his amazing qualities and features and blessings is that Jesus left a legacy. You know, he left a legacy, and I want to leave a legacy just like that. I want to leave a legacy that maybe I'm not in the Bible, but I am in the history books, but I am talked about, maybe not in the world, but I'm talked about in my city, but I'm talked about in my town, because I did something with what God gave me. So, Rich, talk to me. If there's one thing that they will know Richard Lopez as, is what?
If there's like one word, one thing to describe me when I'm old and gone, I would maybe want to say dependable.
Again, I was not expecting that. Yes, talk to me, give it to me.
Like, dependable at the end of the day. Like, if people could just be like, yo, I could count on Rich, man.
Come on.
Like, honestly, yeah, but like, I don't know. Like, if you think about it, I don't want, like, it's kind of hard to think like that in the future. But if I kind of can look in the future and also look back at the same time, like, I would hope that I would still be friends with Alex and Brian. I would still be, dependable, as in, yo, come on, I gotta go do this. You know, maybe in 20 years I have some kids, and it's a little bit more difficult than it is now. But I still got you. Let me figure it out. You know, I hope that I can, lead my future kids down the path of faith. You know, I want to be known as a dependable person that people know. They saw me, they lived with me. They say, yo, Richard has some hard times, but he still lived in faith. You know, a man of faith, a man that's dependable. A leader that doesn't have to be in the spotlight, but is still leading his brothers on the sideline. You know, that's something that I strive for, honestly. And maybe currently, at like a young age, young couple, young married, like I can help like the younger couples that are not married or just the peer couples. Okay, we're the same age. We've been married around the same time. Okay, you going through that. We're going through that. We can all help each other, because if you don't got friends, if you don't have those people you can connect with, then like if you have nothing, if you literally have nobody, then you're probably gonna want to kill yourself, Yeah. So if I'm the guy, if we're the couple that somebody can help out with, that they're not freaking drowning and they want to freaking kill their husband, like if we can be that couple, if I can be that person to somebody, that's what I want to be. I want to be that
known
dependable.
as dependable at the end of the day is such an amazing blessing, man.
Yeah, nobody wants to be a flaker.
Yeah, man.
And if they can call me and I'll pick up,
that's the clutchest type of person to be, a dependable person.
Man. I want to pick up for people and be like, yo, yeah, for sure, let me help you. I gotta move something around, but I'll help you for sure. Why not?
Yeah.
So basically,
wow. Again, blew my mind. I was not expecting that, but yes, dependable. To be known as a dependable person. Brian, talk to me, man. If you were, once you leave your legacy here in this world, what do you want to be known as?
Humble.
Dope.
I say that fastly because, or quickly, I should say, because I think in general, when you are starting to be looked at, or like people are starting to notice who you are and stuff, it gets in your head. Like I generally love one-on-one conversations, and I will still want to do that till the day I die.
Yeah.
But just in general, like I want people to know that it's not through me, it's through Jesus. Like if you've ever had a dream where you could do it alone, your dream is not big enough. So I've always wanted to pursue my lifestyle with Jesus in it. If you walk into a room and you're filled with cologne, even if you leave the house, people are gonna still smell your fragrance. And I sort of want to leave that legacy out.
That fragrance.
That fragrance of my lifestyle.
Of like being humble.
Of Jesus being in the center of everything. So with that, like the top 3 things that people get moved by words is information, inspiration, and confirmation.
Dope.
And if I could inspire someone through the words of this podcast, it's worthwhile the next 20 years. If I can inspire someone from something I've said, it's worthwhile. If I've given confirmation to someone through something I've said, or that's something that we've said, it's something like that I feel honored to say, So I could say that, like God will never stop working in you at all times. I wake up in the middle of the night with these crazy dreams. I have to write it down just in case, So I think that in life, like I just want to be known as someone that's, again, like reliable, but also just in general humble. I want to show that you can still do it without being so prideful.
Wow, guys, I feel like we could talk for days, man. And I'm so honored and privileged to have you guys here as guests. Unfortunately, this is the sad part where we have to end the podcast, but we are going to finish. Actually, we're not going to end here on our YouTube channel. We're actually going to do some Q&As on the Apple Podcast app. I don't want Amaury to kill me because last episode I said the SYA Podcast app, but we have some Q&A questions there, man. But as we end our YouTube podcast, guys, I love the talk. I pray that people are inspired by our stories, by your stories. I mean, I think you guys are top tier, amazing men of God, and people just hear your story. And before we go, guys, this is the time that I always let my guests drop their socials, drop whatever is going on. Sort of like that show, Hot Ones. You guys ever seen Hot Ones? Rich, you ever seen Hot Ones? And he says in the end, man, all right, so look at this camera. So I'm going to do that, all right? I want you guys to go ahead and drop your socials or drop whatever you want to tell the people. This is your time. Brian, start with you. Go.
Follow my Instagram, Brian Altamar, AOTAMAR.
That's it?
Yeah, I don't think I got anything else. So that's my main one that I just want people to see.
All right, Rich, talk to me.
I don't have like a fancy, fun Instagram, but if you want to connect, shoot me a DM, whatever. It's _Rich_Killa, KILLA. I'm there.
Hey, the reason why I always tell people to drop socials is because you never know. Maybe somebody's touched by this podcast and wants to DM you and ask you more questions. So, hey, why not? All right, guys. So, as you guys know, we are going to be finishing this podcast on the Apple Podcast with a little Q&A questions. But for now, this has been SYA, The Talk Podcast. We'll see you guys in a couple of weeks.